If this happens, this will completely change the sport of boxing forever. So Saudi Arabia's Turki Al Sheikh is looking to buy Matchroom, Top Rank, PBC, Golden Boy, and Queensbury to create one big boxing league similar to the UFC. And apparently, this deal could be worth $5 billion now. The price tag means nothing to these guys out in Saudi Arabia. I mean, they have got like endless funds. I mean, money is definitely not an issue for them. So if these businesses do become available to buy, they will have no issue in buying this. Now, there has been a lot of mixed reviews online from what I'm seeing about whether or not this is a good idea or not. Now, boxing and the UFC as an organization have kind of been compared over the years now with the popularity of the UFC, and the main difference is there's actually a few differences, and this is why I think the UFC is better in my opinion. For a start, I'm just more of a fan of the sport of MMA than I am boxing, and obviously the UFC is that big of a promotion that some people even refer to the sport of MMA as UFC. So that's when you know the UFC have done something right. So in the UFC, obviously, more often than not, the best fight the best. Number one will fight number two, fight number three. You don't really get these stupid like mandatory fights in boxing where there's a clear one-sided winner in it. Most of the time, at the top level in the UFC, the fights are often very, very competitive. Another difference is there's not like fucking 10 million different belts in the UFC. You've got one, at most two, which is the interim title, where, say, a champion is out for quite some time, whether that be due to injury or some other circumstance, they'll make an interim title. Whoever wins that will then fight the champion when he comes back. Unless you're John Jones. John Jones has an interim champion in the heavyweight division called Tom Aspinall. The guy's ducking him. This is like the first time I remember of this ever happening. Bullshit. But anyway, that is another reason why, because whenever you go over to boxing, you've got the likes of the WBC, IBF, IBO, WBO, WBA as well. Think I've named them all there. But yeah, and there's a lot of politics involved with that. Like, they have to face these mandatories, and then they can't unify belts, and they can't go on to be undisputed. And he has to fight him, and he can't fight him. And normally, what happens is the best fights do not get made, or whenever they eventually do get made, it's way past their primes. For example, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao is one of those examples. Another example, which would be more recent, is Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. That fight should have been made for undisputed way back years ago. It never happened then, and now look at the outcome. It's just never going to happen, which is a shame, because if that was in the UFC, that fight would have maybe happened. Fucking, maybe they might have even had a trilogy, who knows. But yeah, interesting. I mean, now that I've seen this, has got me thinking, is that why Matchroom and Queensbury have been working alongside Turki Al Sheikh for ages? You know, are they striking up a deal here to be bought? Is that why Queensbury and Matchroom are all like so pally now working together? Are they going to be merged together? There's a lot of questions. I mean, one question that people have been asking is they feel like then if Saudi Arabia do buy the sport of boxing, which essentially if they buy all these promotional companies, that is what they've done. They have bought the sport of boxing. People are worried about, is the fights only going to be held in Saudi Arabia? Now, we know there are a lot of back and forth on Saudi Arabia as a place to host these events. A lot of people are complaining about the atmosphere. A lot of people love the atmosphere. Obviously, in Saudi Arabia, you can't drink. I mean, for the people who complain about the atmosphere, this is just my input on it. You've never even been to Saudi Arabia to watch a fight, so you have no fucking idea what the atmosphere is like. You've watched it from sitting at home. So even when a fight takes place in England, it might be a bit more rowdy on TV, but you have no idea what the atmosphere is like because you're watching it from home. So your opinion really isn't valid. But yeah, big news in the sport of boxing. I mean, do I think this is going to happen? I mean, everybody has a price at the end of the day. I mean, if they offer up a lot of money, I'm sure it could happen. 5 billion seems a bit cheap though for all them companies, to be honest. I mean, 5 billion is a lot of money, but essentially, like I said, you literally own the sport of boxing if you buy all them. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, fair play to Turki Al Sheikh. He has came in and made a core difference already in the sport of boxing with some of the mega fights we've seen. We've seen the Dare Reckoning card, massive card, Fury and Ngannou Joshua, Fury Usyk, the 5v5. The guy has really turned the sport of boxing around for the better. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. I mean, I don't know. I think if all of them came under one roof and got rid of all the fucking government bodies, it probably would do the sport of boxing in the world a good, to be honest. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. And as always, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you again in the next one.